Hi and welcome to Yarns About Patterns. This is the place where I talk about yarn craft and patterns. Specifically, I started this whole YouTube thing, which I'm not very far into, in order to document my journey in learning to write patterns for myself, because the thing that excites me about knitting and crochet and sewing, which I'm still learning, is the idea of completely customizing things. And it has taken a long time, but I have my first pattern out. Cliff's Notes, it's free, it's a belt, it's on Ravelry, the link's down below. There are going to be some pictures on the thumbnails of it already, so you might have an idea what it looks like. It's called the Champion Belt, and well, I've got a little shot popping up probably somewhere here. That's where I usually put them. I'll just give you a little turnaround of the belt and how I've done it up today, which is the back is just tied on. However, if you've made the ends long enough, I've looped the knot around to the front and made a little bow at the front so that it's hit, and then tucked it underneath the belt so it's hidden. But you can just wear it with a bow on the back. It's up to you whether you wish to loop it through some hoops in your clothes if your clothing has it or not. It's very customizable, especially in length. The pattern is designed to be size inclusive because it's based on measuring. So it's based on getting a measuring tape and fitting it to your own size. It's simply a case of knitting to the length that you've measured. And it's all given, there's a diagram in the pattern. I hope it's simple to follow. It is my very first pattern, which is why I've made it free. And also I've put a forum up on Ravelry that's linked to the pattern page, where you can either say what size you made it in and what yarn weight you made it in, and you could give feedback or let me know if there's sort of any errors that I didn't pick up. I edited it myself as thoroughly as I could. I've done technical documentation before, so this isn't coming out of nowhere like, oh no, you've tried to do it yourself, this is going to be a disaster. It shouldn't be a disaster. Like, I've checked it very carefully, but I do still appreciate feedback because I cannot pay for a pattern tester right now. I am about to become a student, but I do still appreciate any technical feedback. Honestly, if anybody so much as looks at this pattern, I feel incredibly honoured, because there are tens of thousands, if not more than that, of patterns on Ravelry. I find it hard to express how special that is, you know? I'm about to move house again, so I have had a little bit of time between releasing it on Ravelry as my first debut pattern and now, and so I got to see how it did, and it did what for me was amazingly. There were, in the first few days, it was on the debut designer's spotlight. So if you're curious about what it's like to put a pattern up on Ravelry, you need to gather all your information beforehand. And for instance, if you've got like a specific yarn that you used, if you've got all the weights and lengths. Now, because mine is size variable and there's instructions in there for using different kinds of like weights of yarn, it's made for Aran or double knit, held double, ideally. However, if you were making it for like a doll or if you were making a belt for a 9-year-old child, you might want a smaller size and you might want to change the yarn. So when I filled in the pattern details, I didn't give a specific yarn or a specific yarn weight, and because you will be measuring to your own size, I didn't give a specific length of yarn, a specific amount of grams, because there is no way to know that. It's a case of knitting and keep adding more yarn. It should be within one skein of yarn, simply because it is a belt, so it should be within 100 grams of yarn, no problem. But again, that depends on what size you are. It's nice to make a nice confident assumption that, oh yeah, you can definitely knit this, but unless I've knit every single size under the universe, and this isn't a graded pattern, it's a completely flexible pattern, then that's not realistic. So filling in the Ravelry form, I didn't put any yarn in there, I didn't put any weight in there, I didn't put any length in there. That simply is going to change depending on who you are, what kind of belt you want. However, everything else is filled in great detail. I've got some pictures up that my friends took of me wearing it. Obviously I can't pay for models either, so it's just in, the pictures are just of this one belt in the one size. I am working on a second belt, but it's a fancy belt with modifications and with a different attachment. And that will be a pattern that I will grade and will be put up for a very small amount of money on Ravelry. And that is not coming for quite a while yet. However, I wanted to get the free one out, I wanted to get started, I wanted to do what I set out to do this year at the start of the year when I started making this video. I've done that, I've been really excited about it. There were a few hundred people, I think, who looked at it in the first 4 days when it was featured on Ravelry. That was what I was going to say earlier. And I was over the moon with that. I think it was something like, for every 100 people that visited the page, 1/10 of those added the pattern to their queue. No, 1/10 of those downloaded it, and 1/10 of those added it to their queue. So 1% actually added it to a queue, and they ended up being in 7 queues, but it's now gone down to 4, I think. So over time, people have been going back through their queues and going, oh, actually, I don't have time to make that, or I don't want to make that. Right now, I want to make something else, I've changed my mind, which is something that I think we all do. It's really interesting to watch that though, and it's kind of, now that it's not on the designer spotlight, the numbers went down from sort of 100 or more a day. I think it was 200, then 100 a day in the next 3 days. And then they dropped right down to sort of 30 a day, 20 a day, 10 a day, 5 a day, and now it's 1 or 2 people a day, which I still think is amazing that even one person would look at it or find it in the massive database that is Ravelry. That still amazes me. I'm pretty happy with it. I don't have a platform. You know, these videos, a handful of people see them, watch them. I've got like 30 people following me on Blue Sky. I don't use Instagram because of their privacy issues. Upscrolled I have for Yarns About Patterns, but there's no one on Upscrolled, so I've not bothered focusing on it. And I am not a content creator who can currently produce lots and lots of content, because I have about 4 other things to do, and one of them is moving house. So right now, for someone who has almost no reach, even getting 1 person a day looking at my pattern is a miracle, and I'm really happy. So this video is just to say thank you if you're any of those few hundred people that clicked through and looked at the pattern, or if you're any people who are like looking at this video now and considering clicking through. Thank you. Wow, I'm really excited. I'm hoping it's the first step in a journey of writing more patterns and doing ever better things. It's really, I suppose it's vulnerable to put yourself out there while you are learning. It's something that I've held off on before quite a lot with making these videos and being a bit shy about it, of wanting to build myself up to be really good and professional before I start, rather than just starting and building up as I go. And it's kind of silly of me, and the reason why I started anyway is because all of the people that I watch started small and worked their way up to more polished things. And if I didn't start, even though I'm in the middle of temporary accommodation, if I didn't start then, I was never going to do it, and I wasn't going to let that happen. So I've started these videos. They are not the most polished, they are not the most perfect. I am not shiny, I am not advertising anything other than my joy of making this pattern at you. This is a free pattern. There will be some that I will put a small amount of cost on in future simply because of how long they take. This one, I made this belt in autumn, I think it was November, and I published it in April. And that's just a really small belt. And I made it in about 5 days because I was going to a wool festival and I had forgotten to bring my belt, and I tried to make one in 24 hours. Didn't have time for that, but I finished it off in the next few days. And then I decided I was going to write up this pattern first because it was a small one, it was a simple one, and I could make it size inclusive. And it's taken me months due to various other distractions, knitting projects, non-knitting projects, life. And I think with that rate, I'm putting the amount of effort in that I put in, because I really did spend, I've got hiccups. I really did spend a good, it was a good solid few days on just editing and polishing alone. I designed the whole template, I used all of my visual design background and training that I could muster, all of my previous experience as a technical manual producer, my previous experience in art. I've like brought all these skills and all this training and education together just to make a little free pattern. And in the hopes that people will like it and that I can grow and learn and share the things I'm excited about making with other people. And I think it's probably going to be pretty niche because I want to make things that I like. That's what drives me to design. And my taste, I'm not mainstream. My taste is quite alternative. I often feel out of place, and I don't see many other people. I do meet other people who share my interests or who share my tastes, but it's not the greater proportion of people. So I'm very prepared for the fact that I'm not going to be a petite knit ever in my life, because this isn't a full-time thing for me, and I'm not going to be making simple everyday staples, which I have respect for, but I like to do fiddly things, and this belt is not a fiddly thing, but it still has linen stitch and it still has shaping and it has I-cord. And so if you've not done those techniques before, I have explained them in the pattern, like written out, and wherever there's like a new technique or I've actually sort of written out the description. So you only need quite basic beginner knowledge to try and tackle this pattern. There are intermediate stitches in there, but it has the instructions in it. And like I said, it's free. So if you want to give it a try, feel free to give it a try. It's done on either double pointed needles, which are recommended, just a pair of them, or you can do it on a circular needle, but you might want a cable needle to hand, that you can twist around, that has 2 points. So I'm not sure, it's going to be quite a short video, I feel like, because there's not much to say, except please feel free to go along there, sort of download the pattern, look at it. Even if you don't want to make it, I would really appreciate it if you look at it, but if you do make it, I'm going to be overjoyed because nobody else has made it yet. You'll be the first. If you are the first, you'll be the first. I'm not anticipating many people seeing this video, so if 10 people watch this video, that would be amazing. And if one person is able to knit and wants to knit this pattern and then does so, that feels like so many ifs that I can't even see that happening. So that's why I'm like, you will be the first. You will be the first and maybe only person. But that would be great. I would love to see other people's colour choices. I would love to hear how people get on with it. Linen stitch is quite in order to give it that stiffness and give it that woven look, it is quite a stiff stitch, and that's another reason I think it's quite nice if you're going to do something linen stitch, just make it a belt. Don't make it a huge all over linen stitch stiff jumper with no drape, that wouldn't be suitable. A belt, you know, bags, straps, those are the good, you know, maybe if you were making some kind of shoe material. Those are quite good for linen stitch. Other larger items, most things you want more drape than linen stitch will give you. And also knitting big wide amounts of linen stitch is not, it's not as fun because you do it does tend to be quite tight, but the result that it brings is beautiful, and it is a fairly simple stitch. It is just ribbing, like it is as simple as ribbing. It is one stitch, another stitch, one stitch, another stitch. The only difference is that you have it asymmetrical on the next row, so it would be like if you were ribbing and your ribbing was going out of line on each other, you know, it was like a knit with a purl above it with a knit above it. Then the stitch is fairly simple. It's just a pattern of whether you are holding your yarn in front or yarn in back. So it's a knit and then a slip with the yarn in front, a knit and then a slip with the yarn in front, and then on the other side you'll do a purl, but then you'll also do a slip with the yarn in the back, and you will alternate. So you will be purling the stitches that were slipped on the previous row, and then when you knit you'll be knitting the stitches that were slipped on the previous purl row. That may not make sense until you try it. Don't worry if that I can already see people going, what? It doesn't make sense until it's in your hand. It makes sense when you do it. It makes sense in the instructions. If you do a row, do another row, take a look at it, and you'll see what you've done. It's always just practical skills. Practicing them is the way to learn them, right? I think so. That's how I learn. I don't know if I'm going to keep any of this. Maybe I'll cut this. I wanted to keep this video quite sweet. I need to do a full what I've been up to video and get that out as well, so I might just do that very soon. Thank you so much again if you've come along and watched this video. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited. I hope if you've made it to the end of the video, please celebrate with me. First ever pattern release is a big achievement. I'm super happy about it. Just to be able to say, I've made my pattern, I've written it up, I've published it, anyone can now use it, I did it. Yay! Right, thank you, bye! Is that seed stitch? I'm going to cut that out.